There's an obvious difference between current and orthodox religions, and that is the avoidance of premarital intimacy. And all these religions, they profess that, yeah, supposedly a man and a woman being married is the greatest good. It's what creates a stable families, and anyone else doing anything else, that's their thing. But in terms of actually maintaining the species, should be our goal, right? And so the idea of that the highest good is like monks who are unmarried, or priests, Catholic, whatnot. That doesn't make any sense, because it doesn't celebrate and define our highest good. And if you look at what religions originally wanted to do, they wanted to preserve like the legacies of people and generational wealth via marriage, and society is stable when people are married, since they can't trust each other if everyone's trying to seduce one another or their loved ones, right? And so basically, marriage is about not only about love, but it's about a safe place for children. And the idea of getting married obligates people to get specific on what kinds of a life that they would want to live and with whom. And so it makes you your best self. And especially when you are able to generate a list of who you are, what you want, it's just as much about loving and yourself through self-knowledge as it is about loving somebody else. And that is the vibratory frequency of love. And and so it's the opposite of what is known as a short-term non-committal quote unquote boy or girl quote unquote friend. Ambiguous relationships, notice relationship, they call it. It's just a, I mean, there are tons of different relationships, but but they hide in within the ambiguity of it, and these having no terms, no conditions, uh, uncertainty, obviously unloving. It's a weakness. It's half-hearted. It's also other things. It's mentally and physically disease-ridden, and and it's unclean, and it promotes heartbreak. So all these things, and then even if you look at the three main reasons why people say people should have premarital intimacy, number one is they say people should have a right to do whatever they want, but obviously we need to have we need to have social boundaries where people can't do illegal, immoral things. But shouldn't they also be restricted from doing unloving things? Like in societies past, I mean, basically, it's been this whole experiment of people being concerned because women were objectified in marriage because the woman didn't have money or power. But then the question the women should ask is what would an optimum society look like? And to me, it would look like fathers taking care of their daughters so that the daughters didn't have to work. I mean, it's not about, see, people are trying to make it about whether people can do something. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. Like men can, if they need to, be a good house husband, but men typically naturally prefer to do other things. So the critical juncture is looking at what the core of society is, which is heteronormative couples having children in a safe and stable way. And so there may be other lifestyles out there which are experimental, but everyone should be, celebrating of that primary fundamental family unit, which, if it's intact, we can move forward. If it's not intact, what's the point of humanity existing if we're not in the love vibration, right? So, so the three reasons that people say they want premarital intimacy: one, should be able to do whatever they want. I just debunked that. Number two, they say you've got to experiment to find out what you're attracted to. Like, is that so hard to do, guys? Ants and all animals can do that. They and plus we have the information age. We have the internet. It allows us to really think about things and research. What the dynamics of people are, both mentally and physically. And uh, so that's number two. Number three of why people say that premarital intimacy should be okay is because you want to know your spouse, what they are intimately. But you can discuss this via the internet. You can talk about it and even video chat about it in a scientific way, in a respectful way, in a way of like, oh, we already know each other, we already respect each other, and so we'd like to know if we're intimately compatible. And guess what? Like, people don't realize it, but if you want intimacy right away, it means you don't care about the person. It means you don't really respect them, and it is a paradox. It's a paradox of, oh, just see them as a lust object, but that's because you don't really know them, and that's because you don't really uh, care about them. And people are unique, and that's what people don't realize. People are very unique if they're being honest with themselves, and they have specific interests and values and life trajectory. And so the person they choose should be in concert with that. And then the other argument is that people need to learn how to be familiar with the opposite gender and psychology and body so that they're more prepared for marriage. But if you look at the statistics suggest that successful marriages are most successful when both people have had no premarital intimacy, and there's not lots of quote unquote body count, and there's not lots of previous attachments, and not to mention children or just trauma. Like, it's like, and the reality, guys, is even with those three things, and even the idea of, well, just because you should be able to have pleasure before and not have to just wait. But the whole point of waiting is that something's valuable, and you use that pleasure to attach yourself to someone. And especially for women, what happens is, because they have this oxytocin release after intimacy. What happens is it makes them want to bond with the person. So it's like the last thing you'd want to do with somebody, unless you actually truly are in love. And so, this comes down to the definition of love, which is shared core values, and wanting to, perpetuate those into the future. And it's like, if you bring up all these issues in discussion, some people who are, all they're trying to pursue premarital intimacy. They don't love themselves, and they don't know themselves, and they don't really care about anything else. They just want to, use people's bodies to get off like a drug. What happens is they'll say that, oh, they're interested in marriage, but they're not trying to find the most efficient path to marriage. They're not studying it. They're not talking about it, and they're just trying to flirt with people and trick them into intimacy. And all intimacy, even something as simple as sitting on a date or kissing, it's all the same thing. It all leads to attachments, which actually make it harder to discern who the right person would be. And it's like, people act confidently. They'll try to insult you until you ask them if they're willing to do a public recorded debate. And then that's when you know that they'll get either angry or upset or ignore you. But they don't want to do the debate because they know that they are wrong, and they are unconsciously ashamed of their antisocial behavior. So there you go. And as a man or a woman, you should not be trying to think about, well, really it's the man who should approach the woman. The man offers the marriage, the woman in exchange offers her body, which is the most valuable. And people will say, oh, that's objectifying and misogynistic to say that a woman's body is the most valuable thing in the world, and her flower. It's like, come on, you guys. All you got to do is only approach somebody when you're ready for marriage. That way there's no confusion, no interfering with people trying to get married. accept those who are ready.